Hi, Verbling. My name's Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're talking about modals. Specifically, we're focusing on two-word modals. And we'll talk more about what that is when we get started. If you guys have any questions or comments you'd like to make about this class, let me know on Facebook. I'll put my Facebook name in the chat box for you. And Andre, welcome to class. How are you, Andre?
Hello. I'm fine. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing really well. I had weird computer trouble this morning, but now I have this fancy computer, so
Yeah,
I hope
I
my...
hope I hope your connection won't let us down.
Yes, I hope so too. And, ooh, this is a tough one. Diogenes or Diogenes?
Diógenes.
Diogenes?
Diógenes. You can call me Dio.
Diogenes. Okay. Gio?
Dio.
Okay, Dio. All right, nice to meet you, Dio. Where are you from?
I'm from Brazil.
Excellent. What part of Brazil?
Now I live in Hero.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Daniel, welcome to class.
Hello, teacher. How are you?
Good. How are you, Daniel?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. And Su Ming, welcome to class. It's been a while. How are you, Su Ming?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful cloudy day here.
Yeah.
All right. Adi, welcome to class.
Hi, welcome, thank you.
Good to have you with us today, Adi.
Yeah, thank you. How are you, teacher?
I'm doing really well so far. And last but not least, Matt. Are you there, Matt?
Hi,
Hi.
nice to meet you. Hi, everybody.
Nice to meet you too. Where are you from, Matt?
I'm from Italy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What part?
In Ancona, in the middle, in other side of Rome, in East Coast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. Today we're talking about modals, and we'll start by just refreshing our memories of what a modal is. So, Su Ming, can you tell me a little bit about what a modal is?
Model is model is the possibility. Yeah.
Possibility, yeah, they frequently talk about possibility. Awesome. Adi, is there anything else you can tell us about modals, or would you like to give us some examples of modals? Any ideas, Adi? Adi, I can't hear you. You're muted. All right. Adi, if you come back, let us know. And Matt, will you give us more information about modals, or maybe give us a couple examples of what a modal is?
Verb modal, or like, yeah, verb modal.
Modal verb.
Modal verb, like the topics of this lesson. Have to, mean to, supposed to, how to.
Cheater. Okay.
Oh no.
Yes, exactly. Those are good examples.
Yeah, I can do. I don't know. Have to, and I don't know, is I don't know. We can use these when I don't know. It's like must, but it's not really necessary.
Yeah.
I have to go to buy food in the market, but I must do to buy in pharmacy aspirin, for example. because it's
Must
very
is a good
necessary.
example.
Yeah, must is very necessary. I don't know. Or it's very important, very important for
Yeah.
me.
That's a good example of a one-word modal. It's a pretty common one. And you're right that it modifies our main verb. It can't be the main verb of a sentence. It just helps us explain more about our ideas or our motivations behind something. All right. Shell, welcome to class.
Thank you. Hello.
Good to have you with us, Shell. I put the notes in the chat box, I hope. I did put the notes in the chat box, didn't I? If I didn't, I'll put them in the chat box again now, and you can open them there. And in the meantime, Dio, would you like to give us any more examples of modal verbs?
Let me cheat a little bit. I have to go to school, to work, or I have to go to some place, go to the party, or something like that.
Have to. Definitely a good modal verb. Daniel, any others you can think of? Any other modal verbs, maybe ones that we are not talking about so much today, but just more examples of what a modal verb is?
Ought to.
Huh?
Ought to.
Ought to, yeah.
It's
Okay.
kind of advice.
Uh-huh. Yeah. A kind of advice, and we'll talk more about that in a second. Andre, are there any other modal verbs that you can think of? Maybe single word modal verbs like must?
Must, would, could,
Yes,
should,
exactly. Must, would, could,
shall,
should. Mm-hmm.
shall, had better.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's a good one. Had better is an interesting one. If we have time, we'll work a little more with that today. All right. So I think that was a pretty good modal verb review before we get into the notes. And I'll screen share them for you, and they're in the chat boxes as well. So today, we're focusing on modal verbs that have two words, even though most modal verbs just have one word. So they're a little less complicated. And we'll be talking more about this. Let's start with have to. Pretty straightforward and simple. You guys are probably familiar with it. Shell, would you like to read the section on have to for us?
Have to is the same as have to is the same as must, but it sounds less formal. It implies that you don't have a choice. For example, John has to go to work every day. The student have to study tonight.
Thanks. So, I want to hear about your responsibilities. We're all going to come up with a sentence using have to talk about something that you are obliged to do, something where you don't really have a choice. And Kevin, welcome to class. How are you?
Good morning, teacher. I'm fine, thanks. What about you?
I'm doing very well. Having a
Great.
good day so far. And Jose,
Great.
welcome to class also. Nice new picture, Jose. Are you there? I can't hear you, Jose. If you're having any trouble with your microphone, let me know in the chat box. All right. So I want to hear your sentences using have to, talking about responsibility. Su Ming, tell me a responsibility you have using have to.
I have to walk my dog every day.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, Su Ming. Shell? Oh, question? No? All right. Shell, go ahead and give us the sentence using have to.
I have to pay my tuition fee before the class starts.
Yes. Excellent. Thanks, Shell. Audie, are you ready with one?
I have to I have call my dad right now.
All right, good. Thanks, Adi. Matt, do you have one for us?
Yes, I have to do a lesson today.
All right. Do a lesson as in take a lesson or give a lesson?
Take a lesson today.
Got
Yeah.
it. Awesome. Good sentence. Thanks, Matt. Kevin, what do you have to do?
I have to do. I have to go, or I can use have to go
You can. Where? Where do you have to go today?
to dentist doctor.
Ooh, bummer. All right, good sentence though.
Yeah.
Dio, do you have a sentence for us using have to?
Yeah, I have to work in 1 hour.
Did you say I have to working?
I have to work in 1 hour.
There we go. Yes, have to work. Thanks, Dio. Daniel, go ahead. Give us a have to sentence.
I have to pick up my child from school every day.
Excellent. Thanks, Daniel. And Andre, go ahead.
I have to pay my utilities every month.
Yes, definitely necessary. All right, you guys did an excellent job. That was the easy stuff. Now we're going to get into some that are a little more complex. So, supposed to is maybe one step a little bit more interesting, I think, than have to. And let's have Matt read the supposed to section.
Allora, to be supposed to means an obligation. It's something that you should do, or something that another person expects you to do. Don't forget to use the verb be in front of supposed to. Sally is supposed to. Sorry, no, it's starting another sorry. Yeah.
No problem. Are you
No.
following along with the screen share? Can you see the sentences okay?
Yeah, Sally is supposed to meet her friend tonight. All of employees are supposed to attend today's meeting.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so this one is interesting because it is an obligation, but it usually is talking more about what other people are thinking. So you would say supposed to when someone else is expecting you to do something. So you're talking about someone else's expectation. And this time I'll start on the other end and ask Andre to give us a sentence using supposed to. What's something you're supposed to do, someone else expects you to do?
Me or another person or thing?
Andre, yes. Cat Andre.
Okay. My salary is supposed to be increased.
Okay, so your salary is supposed to increase, what, every year? Every 5 years?
Right away.
So who expects your salary to increase then?
My boss. So my boss is supposed to increase my salary.
Okay, that works. Daniel, tell us what someone else expects of you using supposed to.
My wife is supposed to buy some bread.
All right. And if she doesn't, what will happen?
I won't eat lunch.
Got it. So you'll complain. You expect your wife to bring you bread. Thanks, Daniel. Dio, can you give us a supposed to sentence?
Yeah, I suppose to play with my daughter today.
All right, so your daughter expects some playtime with her dad. Nice.
Yeah.
Jose, give us a supposed to sentence.
My wife supposed to buy a car.
All right. Who expects her to buy a car?
Tell me, teacher.
Who expects your wife to buy a car?
Be because the old car has broken.
Mm-hmm. So supposed to is about expectation, and you said your wife is supposed to buy a car. So who expects your wife to buy a car? You?
Okay. Yes.
All right. You. All right. Awesome. Kevin, go ahead.
My girlfriend is supposed to call me tonight.
Excellent sentence. So you expect her to call you. Thanks, Kevin. Matt, your turn. Supposed to sentence.
Yeah, the company is supposed um, to receive an email by me from New York. I don't know.
Okay. So the company is supposed to receive an email from you. And then what was the end of it? By New York?
No, yeah, I said that the company is supposed to receive an email by me. No, by me. Yeah, by me. I don't know. Yeah, from me. From me.
From me is probably
From
better.
me. Yeah, from me. I don't know. Next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Audie, your turn to try out supposed to.
I'm supposed to finish my work tonight.
And who expects you to finish your work?
My client,
All right. Thanks, Audie.
my boss.
Shell, go ahead and give it a try. Thanks, Audie.
The students are supposed to wear their IDs inside the campus.
Excellent. And if not, someone will punish them or notice, right? All right. Suming, last one. Give us a supposed to sentence.
I'm supposed to buy a mansion uh, next year by my wife.
Ooh, so your wife is expecting it.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, guys. That was awesome. The next one, we're going to write our sentences in the chat box, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to have Kevin read the ought to section, and then we'll write our sentences. Go ahead, Kevin.
Ought to means a suggestion. You should do something, but you don't have to do it. We ought to clean the house tonight. Philip ought to help you with your homework.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. So this time, write some sentences using ought to in the chat box. Try to get at least one in, and we'll start to talk about them and see if you guys make any mistakes along the way we can talk about as well. Go ahead. All right, we've got one ready. My friend ought to help me clean my car tomorrow. Yes, he ought to. That would be something nice for him to do. Thanks, Kevin. Great sentence. No corrections there.
Thank you.
He ought to buy some candies. Who ought to buy candies, Daniel?
My wife.
Are you guys celebrating Halloween?
Yes.
Ooh, that should be fun.
Yes.
All right, and just one small mistake. Candies, plural, is not with a Y. It's with an I-E-S.
Okay, you're right.
Thanks, Daniel. I ought to go to the shopping mall. What are you going to go to the shopping mall for, Adi?
For me, some stuff for my monthly needs.
Nice. Excellent. Great sentence, Adi. No corrections there. The next one I see is, I ought to wash my car today. Yes, we have a car washing and cleaning theme in these sentences. Great sentence, David. Still waiting on a couple more. And if you guys have already written one, feel free to write another one. Tell me about other things that you ought to do, or that I ought to do. He ought to work harder. Excellent sentence, Jose. But since we're making this comparative, we'll say harder instead of more hard. And we usually use the ER ending with short words like easy, easier, hard, harder, sad, sadder, mad, madder. And then with
Okay.
longer, we use more.
Okay, teacher.
All right. I ought to cook today. Yes, I think everyone ought to cook today. Stay home to eat. Okay. I ought to turn my mic off when I'm not speaking. Hey, yes, that's a great idea. I love when students do that. Makes it ever easier for all of us to hear. Great sentence, Shell, no corrections. He ought to hardly work every day. Ooh, interesting. So, are you saying that he should work less? Or?
Yes. He
Okay.
he should not do anything, but he do a lot.
Okay. It's good the way you wrote it. There's no specific problems there. It sounds a little bit funny, so maybe a better way to write it, or a more clear way to write it, would be he ought to work less every day. They make a little more sense. Thanks, Suming.
Yes.
I ought to watch comedy series to refresh my brain. Yes, excellent. So first we need an article. So maybe say a comedy series. And we need to make it series, just because I think you probably just missed the S there. So a comedy series to refresh my brain. Thanks, Adi. Oh, you already corrected yourself. Sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, I ought to refresh the page because the connection failed. Ooh, I hate when that happens. But great sentence, Andre. And I ought to go out with some friends tonight. Yes, we should do that every night. Okay, great job. You guys, if you're still working on one, you can feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll talk about it in a second. So this is a quick note. You guys don't seem to have a problem with this, but all of these words are modals and they are followed by a verb. So that's something we talked about in the beginning of class. Now let's compare them all together to see directly what their meaning difference is. And how about Dio? Can you read this section for us?
Yes. You may feel confused about the slight difference between these words. Just think about what the speaker is implying. I have to do my homework. If I don't, we'll be in trouble. I'm supposed to do my homework. If I don't, my teacher will notice that I didn't do it. I ought to do my homework. I don't have to do if I don't want to, but if I feel I should, do it because I want to do well in the class.
Awesome. Thanks. Do you guys have any other comments or questions on these before we move on to some quizzing?
Should and ought, it's the same meaning?
Yeah, should and ought to are the same. Ought to is a little less common and sounds a little bit more formal. And
Okay.
I think it's a little more common in British English, but I can't say for sure. I think it's more common in British English though.
Okay.
Good question.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, we should we add to for saying the modal verb have or suppose or ought? I mean, the modal always followed by to.
Yeah, for these, we have to use to. These are considered modal verbs of more than one word, so we have to use to with these particular two-word modals.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Okay,
answer your
thank you.
question?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, no problem. Any other questions? Then let's go on. We have a little bit of fill in the blank, which should be fun. So number 1, Andre, will you read number 1 and decide if it's ought to, has to, or is supposed to?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Willie needs money to pay for his food and house. If he doesn't go to work, he won't have money. He must work. Willie have to go to work.
Yeah, B has to. Unfortunately, he has to go to work.
Oh,
All
he
right,
has
thanks,
to
Andre.
go.
Oh, did you say A, ought
I,
to?
no, actually I don't remember what I said.
I thought you said has to. Maybe I was
Okay.
wrong, though. All right. Number 2, shall. Will you do number 2 for us?
Okay, Johnny should help his mother with the housework. His mother will be happy if he did, but if he didn't help her, his mother wouldn't feel bad. Johnny A ought to help his mother.
Yes, she ought to help his mother. Thanks, Shell. Jose, will you do number 3?
Joan want to be a nurse. To become a nurse, it's necessary to go to nursing school. I think that the letter is A. Has to.
Mm-hmm. She has to. Excellent. And Adi, will you do number 4?
Okay. Tom's friend is waiting for him at the gym. Make plan to meet 6. His friends will be upset if Tom doesn't go. Tom is it is supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, his friend is expecting him, so it's supposed to. Thanks, Adi. And Daniel, will you do number 5?
Lisa tells Nathan that he could be a good manager. She suggests that he apply for a job as a manager. Nathan is going to think about that. Lisa thinks Nathan ought to be a manager. Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Did you use one of the A, B, or C options?
A. Lisa thinks Nathan ought to be a manager.
Yes, excellent. Ought to be a manager. Great. You guys aced the test and your sentences were good. So we're going to move on. And the answers are there if you want to go back and check. Now we're going to move on to one that's a little less common, but kind of an interesting one. It's meant to. So this is similar. It's a two-word modal phrase, but the meaning is a little more complex than some of the other ones. So we're going to read a little bit about this. And let's see, this first section. Su Ming, will you read that part for us?
Oh. They are freely interchangeable in many everyday contexts, but their difference in the tone of voice means to has a more philosophical sound, as in fact, while supposed to might refer to transgression or slough of some sort. For example,
Thanks. Okay, so here we're specifically comparing meant to and supposed to, which in some cases are very similar. But part of the confusion comes from the fact that meant to actually has two different meanings. And the one we're going to talk about most today is the one that's similar to supposed to. But you can also use it as a synonym to intended to. Like, I intended to finish my homework, but I didn't have time. And that would be the same as I meant to finish my homework, but I didn't have time. So that definition we're not going to talk as much about today because it's pretty simple and clear. However, the other definition is very similar to supposed to, and we're going to read a couple sentences about that now. The first example we have, I'm going to ask, let's see, Dio to read for us.
Hello. Okay. Despite the best effort of the director, the actors, and the rest of the crew, the movie didn't do well. It just wasn't meant to be a blockbuster. Try to substituting supposed to here, and it sounds way wonky.
Okay, so
How pronunciate these words?
supposed to? Oh no, substituting.
Substituting.
Yeah, substituting. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks for reading that. So in this context, when we use meant to, we're talking about destiny and fate. Like, it just wasn't destiny that this movie was a blockbuster. But we're not saying anything about expectation. So sometimes these... Go ahead.
I have a question. Sorry. Mean to is, I think, is related to the meaning of the sentence or something like that.
It's related to what?
To the meaning of the sentence or the next sentence or not is a question.
So mean to is related to the next sentence? I'm confused about your question.
The mean to is like I'm saying the meaning of the what I supposed to do or something like that, or not.
Yeah, it's similar. Exactly. So sometimes we can use them interchangeably. Like, for instance, how about it was supposed to rain today, or it let's see, we can't substitute them there. I meant to do my homework versus I was supposed to do my homework have a very similar meaning because that's more like intended to, like I intended to do my homework versus I was someone expected me to do my homework. But in this context, we can't substitute one for the other because meant to is talking about fate and supposed to is talking about expectation. We've
Okay.
got one more sentence that gives us a little more info and I think is a really good example of how they're not always interchangeable. And let's have Matt read this one.
Yes. Uh, Despite the best efforts of the director, the actors, and the rest of the crew, the movie didn't do well. It just wasn't supposed to be a blockbuster. Well, what can I say? It was supposed to be a blockbuster. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to become one.
Okay, so this sentence here doesn't make very much sense. This is the example of why we can't substitute one for the other, because we're saying it wasn't expected to be a blockbuster, but obviously it was expected. So we can't use supposed to here, but we can change the sentence around and say it was supposed to be a blockbuster, as in people expected it to be a blockbuster. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to become one, or Destiny did not comply. Destiny said, no, this is not happening. So I'd like you guys to write a sentence that shows that difference. So write a sentence that includes both supposed to and meant to, or if you want, you can make it 2 sentences to show the difference between these 2 modal phrases. And write them in the chat box when you guys are ready. So take a couple minutes, kind of let it sink in. And do you guys have any questions before you begin to write? Awesome. Then go for it. Write your sentences using supposed to and meant to, and show the difference between the 2. So the sentences have to be related so that we can see the difference between these 2 phrases. And while you guys are writing, I see there is one sentence that I missed the last time we were writing sentences. I suppose my dog can win the fight with the cat. That's a really interesting sentence because we actually use the verb suppose as a normal main verb instead of as a modal verb. So it's kind of cool, but it's not being used as a modal in that case. Thanks, Su Ming. And I see one more sentence from this exercise now. She is supposed to be beautiful. It wasn't meant to become a model. Ooh, interesting. Interesting sentence set. So, when you say it, do you mean her, Daniel? She wasn't meant to become a model?
Yes, yes, sorry.
Okay. So, let's see. People expect her to be beautiful, but she wasn't meant to become a model. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, more or less.
All right. Good. Thanks, Daniel. Next up, my first job was on the phone and I hated it. I definitely wasn't meant to do that job. Great. And hopefully you'll have one more coming up for us using supposed to. Next up, I meant to be an astronaut, but now I'm a software engineer. All right, so first you need the verb to be with meant to. So maybe I was meant to be an engineer, or sorry, I was meant to be an astronaut, but now I'm a software engineer. It's an interesting sentence, but I feel like the difference here is not quite clear. I feel like you probably want to say, I was supposed to be an astronaut, but I was meant to be an engineer. And the reason is because when you say I was meant to be an astronaut, what you're saying is that destiny intended you to be an astronaut. But of course, you're not an astronaut, so that doesn't have anything to do with destiny. So we'll change those. I was supposed to be an astronaut, meaning that people expected you to be an astronaut, maybe you expected you to be an astronaut, but that destiny did not do it for you. It didn't work out like you expected. All right. Next set. David tripped during the marathon. I guess he wasn't meant to win the race. Yes, perfect sentence, Shell. I like that. I didn't suppose to buy a BlackBerry, but my friends have it, so I bought one. Interesting. I like the ideas here, but we could use a couple little corrections in the grammar. You would use was as the main verb here. So I wasn't meant to to buy a phone. We'll just say a phone. But my friends all have Blackberries. Or them. I'll have them. So I bought one. Okay. I just made a couple little reorganizations of that sentence, and now it's perfect. Thanks for the ideas, Audie. Great sentence. Next sentence I see. I mean to study the next year at the university. That's a pretty good sentence. There's a couple corrections, and we're not actually using this as a modal because we're not saying was meant to. You're saying like I intend to.
Okay.
So you can just change it and say I was meant to study at the university. Okay. And you could include a little more context information like maybe how about I don't know how we can make this. How about I wasn't supposed to study at university, but I was meant to study at the university next year. So that would mean like you didn't expect to study there, but destiny took over. Destiny said, yes, this year is your year to study. All right, next up, I was supposed to finish my work next week, but it wasn't meant really hard. Okay. So the first part of your sentence starts excellently. I was supposed to finish my work by next week. That's great. So you're saying other people expect you to finish your work by next week. The rest of the sentence is a little confusing. So you could change it to make more sense by saying, but it wasn't meant to be. Or maybe it wasn't meant, it wasn't meant to be, or you could say something like, it's too hard, so it wasn't meant to be, if you want to include that other information. It's too hard, and it wasn't meant to be. All right, thanks, Matt. Awesome ideas. All right. All right. Are we missing any sentences? I feel like I might be missing a couple sentences still. If you guys are still working,
you missed my sentence.
Take your time. There's no rush here. However, if some of you guys are waiting around because you have already finished these sentences, I'd like you to write a sentence using had better. It's another two-word modal expression, and I'll put it in the chat box for you guys. And it's used in the same way as these ones, but of course the definition is a little different. Can anyone help us define the phrase had better? Does anyone know what had better meant? Maybe you guys are all hard at work.
It is like advice or
It's
intention.
like what?
Advice or
To
intention.
to give
Advice, yes.
advice, no? To give
Yes.
advice.
It definitely is related to advice, but it's a little different than some of our other ones like should or ought to. It's a little different. So what's the difference between had better and ought to? Does anyone know?
No idea.
All right. So the difference is that ought to and should are pretty passive. They're saying that like something is a good idea, but not necessary, just a good idea, right? But had better kind of implies that if you don't do it, there will be a problem, like a big problem. For instance, I might use had better to threaten people. So I say, you better do your homework or I'm going to punch you in the face, right? So I'm saying that if you don't do this thing, there will be negative consequences. So it's a little bit more extreme than should or ought to, because I'm saying you do have a choice. I'm letting you know that you have a choice. You can or you can't. You don't. It's not necessarily an obligation. But if you don't do it, I am going to hurt you, or something bad is going to happen to you. All right. And Georgie, welcome to class.
Welcome.
Good to have you with us, Georgie. Where are you from?
I'm from Georgia. I'm from Georgia.
Cool.
Don't release.
Awesome. Good to have you with us. We're doing two-word modals. The notes are being shared, and the link to the notes is in the chat box if you need it. And now I'm going to ask all you guys to write a sentence with had better, now using the definition that we just discussed. And while you guys do that, I'll continue reading some of the sentences I see in the chat box and discussing them. The first one I see is, certainly it was meant to be. And it's a great sentence, Jose. Thank you. The next one I see is, I had a better time today than yesterday. And I think that's a very creative use of the words that I gave you. Of course, it's not exactly a modal phrase, but it is a creative use of both of the words I assigned you. So thanks, David. The next one is a little bit better of an example of the modal use of these words. It had better to do what he is asking. I love the sentence, although I think to get the exact meaning you're going for, we should reorganize a little bit. How about you had better do what he is asking. Now, this isn't something we talked about yet, but because this modal phrase does not involve to, we don't use it. We don't need the infinitive form. It's just followed by the normal. So that's why I made that small little change to your sentence. But other than that, it was great, Daniel. Thank you.
Okay.
The next one I see, I had better take a private lesson with Michael to learn how to speak with such an awesome accent. Yes, I love your sentence. There are no corrections I could make there, except, did you mean Michael? Who's Michael?
I meant with you, but the font is too small, so I mistyped.
Oh, got it. Funny. Well, you did, aside from the A, you did a great job of spelling my name. A lot of people think it's with a K. So thanks for your sentence, Andre. I love that one. Okay. The next one I see, he had better wash his hands before he eats. Yes, otherwise he might get sick.
I'm go out.
What, Georgie? Oh, all right. Bye, Georgie. Have a good day. All right, keep those sentences coming, those had better sentences. My classmates had better not forget to greet me on my birthday. Yes. Excellent. They had better not forget. I agree, Shell. Great sentence. No corrections. All right. You had better finish your work or you will be fired. Nice. I love that sentence. Thanks, David. And just so I'm clear, is David in class? Or is David just a chat box friend?
He is a chatbot.
Okay,
Correct.
just a chat box friend. Just making sure. Sometimes the chat box names don't line up with the student names in class, so I just wanted to make sure. All right. I had better to broke her heart so she can learn from that. Ooh, this is a dramatic sentence. This is like a movie line or something. A couple small corrections we could make to it though. Aha, I knew it. So David is Dio. Excellent. Thanks, Dio, for letting me know. Let's make a couple corrections to Audie's sentence now. I had better break. So first off, we need to use the simple form of the verb after I had better break her heart so she can learn. From that is okay, but it's a little redundant, I guess, because we already know so is kind of a cause and effect. So we know one is causing the other. So we don't really need to say from that, but we could if we wanted. All right, the next one. Shell had better to tell us when is her birthday so we can greet her. That is a funny sentence, Ming, and it's awesome, but we have a to where we don't need one. So let's correct that. Shell had better tell us when her birthday is so we can greet her. Yes, now it's perfect. Dave had better not be a ghost. Yes, except take that to out of there, Andre. Not to be a ghost, but better not be a ghost.
Had better not to be. Or,
Without the to. Had better not be.
not be. Okay, thank you.
All right. If you guys are still writing sentences, you can continue to put them in. We'll continue reading them. Do you guys have any questions on had better before we do one more modal phrase today?
No.
No? All right, so the next one we're going to work with is dare. Now this one is just a single word modal verb, so you'd think that it would be simple, but it's not exactly that simple. Can anyone help us understand a little more about what the word dare means and how we use it? Whoa, silence. Okay. No one knows? No one
I've
has
never
ever
heard.
heard dare before?
When someone insults you, and you can say how he there.
Okay.
It's like when you challenge something that the people don't like it, like someone do something that you dislike, and you say, "How dare you?" or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so to be brave enough or rude enough to do something, basically. So you're saying that this person is either really brave or really rude. And I'll give you guys an example before I ask you to write your own sentences. It would be something like, I dare not curse in class. I dare not curse in class. And that one would be obvious. It's considered pretty rude to say curse words, and so I dare not curse in class. All right. Now you guys try a sentence. So write one in the chat box using dare. Tell me what you dare to do or what you dare not do.
To
So,
say bad words.
Huh? Question?
It's forgiven to say ugly words.
Uh-huh. So you're talking about my example, right?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. It's considered a forbidden thing, so either I have to be really brave in order to do it or really rude. One or the other. All
so
right.
when we use this modal verb, we should add to or use infinitive after it.
You have an option on this one. Both forms are used, sometimes with to, sometimes without. For instance, in the sentence I wrote, I said, I dare not curse in class. This one we would not use a to because it's negative. But if I made the sentence positive, we can use a to. I dare to curse in class, or I dare curse in class. Both are options for the positive, but not for the negative. In the negative, we cannot use to. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, we have a couple examples. If you dare to rob the bank,
Yes.
you would be rich. Very true. Great sentence. I love that example, Su Ming. Thank you. I dare to ask her to marry me. That is a brave decision, Matt. Very vulnerable situation.
I don't think so. It's a fantasy.
I like it. Thanks, Matt. Next up, how you dare to talk with someone in the impolite way. Yes. Okay. We just have to do one simple switch around. It should be how dare you? And I guess because it's a question, we would switch it around so the subject comes later. How dare you talk? Yeah, or to talk. How dare you to talk? Actually, because it's a question, we usually don't use to in this sense. So I know I didn't mention that earlier, but now that I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, that sounds funny. So we would have to take the to out for a question as well. We only use the to if it's a positive statement, not if it's negative, not if it's a question. So, how dare you talk with someone in an impolite way? Okay, and I'll put the corrected version in the chat box so
Thank
we
you.
can say clear. Thank you for your sentence, Daniel. That actually helped us go over a couple important topics that I forgot to mention. All right, the next one I see. The policeman dared to ask me to pull over. Perfect, Andre. Thank you. I dare you to jump from the bridge. Ooh, nice. Great sentence, Dio. Thanks. I dare not sleep while I'm in class. I'm in Michaela's class. Yes, excellent. It's English time. No sleeping. Thanks, Shell. If you dare to sleep in Michaela's class, you would be punished. Yes, make sure you add an ed onto that punish to make it an adjective. Other than that, it's good. And bridge does not have an e on it. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Yes, bridge has an e. Okay. So, any other comments or questions before we finish up? Because unfortunately, we are out of time today. Nothing else?
Perfect.
Awesome. I have another class coming up in a second on geography. So if you're interested, I'll see you there. And if not, I'll see you around another time. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, teacher. Bye-bye.